Okay, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. It's another Monday night. Next week, we're actually going to be on break, but it's another Monday night, which means another Mondays with Moshe. This week, we were supposed to have a special featured person, but unfortunately, she woke up sick this morning and called in sick. So I decided that let's do something a little different. We're going to talk a little bit about gestalt therapy, and in particular, the work of Fritz Perls in his, I don't know if we want to call it infamous or notorious or just plain famous session with Gloria. This was, I believe, in the 1960s. And this video has conjured up quite a bit of controversy, especially because Gloria famously had a daughter who wrote a book and gave interviews about how she suffered as a result of Gloria becoming famous and Gloria disclosing so much personal and private information, which somehow became extremely public. I believe that the claim is that it was not supposed to be public. It was supposed to be just for training purposes, and it wasn't supposed to go viral. But by now, I'm sure it's gotten millions of clicks and watches. And at the same time, we also owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to Gloria for doing this and putting herself in that vulnerable position, because at the end of the day, there has been much that has been learned and gleaned from observing the great Fritz Frederick Perls in action. I would like to make a request for those of you who are here. Can you please turn on your videos if that's a possibility? It's always much more nice and personal to speak to people than to speak to a screen with names. So for those of you who can grace us with your videos, thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Yaakov. And for those possible, I'll remind you again a little bit later in the show. We only have 18 people now, but hopefully there will be some more who join. For those of you who can turn it on, I'd love to be able to see your reactions and interact with you. So thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the work of Fritz Perls and the work of this session. At some point, I'm going to let Fritz speak for himself. He gives a little introduction to the session, and then I believe he gives a postscript as well. And then we'll get to see the session itself. My plan is that throughout the session, as we watch the session, I'm going to comment on what Fritz was doing in each moment and my understanding of the value or the choices of interventions that he decided to do in that moment. Another thing that's controversial about this video is that for the untrained eye, Fritz appears to be almost mocking Gloria. For the trained eye, I would say Fritz is absolutely brilliant in what he's doing. Again, if you appreciate and understand what he's trying to do. And at the same time, I would venture to say that Fritz probably did not need to be that menacing during the session. He probably could have done this a little bit more gently. And at the same time, I acknowledge that the work that he did with Gloria was brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about Fritz and what his motive and objective seems to be in this session. And then we're going to listen to him and see if he agrees with me. So Fritz Perls believed as follows. If we take the process of psychotherapy, okay, so a lot of what happens in psychodynamic therapy is we want to really understand the client's past, and we want to have them create a much deeper self-awareness of what goes on within them, and then have them trace that to their implicit memories so that they understand why they tick the way they tick, why they behave the way they behave, why they feel about themselves the way they feel, why they see themselves in the way they do, why they experience the world around them the way they do. And the only way that we could really identify that is if we go back and we look back at their implicit memories and start to understand how they were shaped, by whom they were shaped, what messages were they given implicitly or explicitly, but certainly implicitly, that shaped them to be the way they are. The more implicit the memories are, the more complex it might be to access them. The more explicit the messages were, the more simple it should be to access them. And so we look back at the earlier experiences, and as the client develops the insight, understands why they work the way they do, why they feel the way they feel, they can now begin to experience themselves differently through the relationship with the therapist. That's in a very, very oversimplified nutshell, but sort of explains how psychodynamic or psychoanalytic therapy, what it seeks to do. Fritz Perls didn't really care about the past. And in fact, there is going to be one point in the therapy room, in the therapy session with Gloria, which I think many people don't catch what he does, but she says something about her past, something about when I was little or my father used to, and Perls immediately shuts that down. Okay. Now, again, the reason that Perls shuts that down, in my understanding, is because he doesn't want Gloria to get stuck on going into the past. Now, why does Fritz want to avoid going into the past if we know that understanding the past really helps with the present? So the answer is as follows. Fritz knows what we all know, which is that there is really no real difference between the past and the present. In other words, in our present experiences and our present behaviors, we're just reliving what happened in the past. So the past is actually playing itself out in the present. So Fritz's argument is, why go back to the past and uncover the incidents, uncover the traumatic events, if we can just stay here in the present and treat the present manifestations of the past. The present is the past. The present is the past. This that I react and respond the way I do is the past replaying itself just as it did 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 40 years ago. It played itself out when I was afraid of my father or when I was desperate for my mother's attention. And it's playing itself out now when I'm desperate for my therapist's attention or when I'm afraid of my therapist. Now, by the way, if Fritz Perls was my therapist, I'd probably be afraid of him, even if I wasn't afraid of my father, but that's besides the point. Okay. So that's Perls, that seems to be Perls' argument, that seems to be his approach. And that's pretty much why he stayed away from past incidents, past events, and when the client wanted to bring up past, including Gloria. Okay, so the argument that he's making and the treatment that he's doing is, let's stay here in the present. Now, what Fritz did was he capitalized on the present. He said, let's really look at the present in what's called, what we refer to as, or what he referred to as the here and now. So the here and now might be replaying itself predominantly in the relationship between the therapist and the client. So in the way which Gloria acts and behaves towards Fritz, that's giving him all the information that he needs to know, sort of prophetically knowing what went on in the past, but not caring about what goes on in the past because he's only going to address it in the here and now relationship. And besides what goes on in the relationship between the therapist and client, it's probably also manifesting in her unconscious body movements, in her unconscious withdrawals or assertiveness or whatever goes on, even things that are not necessarily relational between the therapist and the client, but things that are just sort of her own responses to things. So if I'm using my hands to go like this, and I'm saying her own responses to things, right? This is not relational between me and the therapist. It's between me and myself when I use my hand motion like that. So Fritz wants to know, what is this? What's going on in your here and now behaviors, in your here and now actions? What's really happening for you? Again, we don't care about what happened in the past that brought you to this. We care about what's happening for you right now. And this is what he sought to draw out of the client. And he believed that if the client becomes more aware and more understanding, then this general self-awareness that the client has in how they behave and feel will enable them to begin to do something differently. Now, he also called out the client on behaviors that they did that were maladaptive. And he happened to have done it in a way that wasn't particularly flattering or gentle but at the same time was very striking and poignant. So, that might be why he decided to behave in such a gruff, seemingly gruff fashion, maybe because he wanted it to really leave its mark and he wanted to draw it out, very dramatically. Otherwise, I'm not sure why it was necessary for him to be so gruff on the client, but I'll leave that for the jury. My goal is that I'd like to try to go through this 30-minute video tonight and then hopefully have a discussion about it, share some feedback. So again, for those of you who at any point would like to share feedback or ask a question about something I'm saying or about something that you see in the video with Fritz, please use the reactions tab on the bottom right of your screen. Raise your hand. Let's have a discussion about it. So without further ado, let's go into Dr. Perls' introduction to his session with Gloria.
I'm to interview a patient, and I'd like to give you some thumbnail sketch of what gestalt therapy stands for. Gestalt therapy is working on an equation: awareness equal present time equal reality. In contrast to depth psychology, we try to get hold of the obvious, of the surface, of the situation in which we find ourselves, and to develop the emerging gestalt strictly on the I and thou, here and now basis. Any escape into the future or the past is examined as a likely resistance against the ongoing encounter.
So here he said it, right? Any attempt for the client to go to the past, which is what most clients are actually expecting the therapist to do back in the 1965, right? He's saying is actually a way to escape what's happening in the here and now, which is true. They're escaping the here and now by going into the past. So some clients might be innocent because they expect that that's what therapy is. But for a client who was just following Fritz's lead, he would see their going into the past as just an escape.
Modern man has alienated, given up so much of his potential that his ability to cope with his existence becomes badly impoverished. My aim is this: the patient should recover his lost potential. He should integrate the conflicting polarities, understand the difference between game playing, especially the playing of verbal games, on the one hand, and of genuine, authentic, confident behavior on the other. The civil war of inner conflicts weakens the efficiency and comfort of the patient, but every bit of integration will strengthen it. Now, in the safe emergency of the therapeutic situation, I repeat, in the safe emergency of the therapeutic situation, the patient begins to take risks and to transform his energies from manipulating the environment for support into developing greater and greater self-support, that is, reliance on his own resources. This process is called maturation. Once the patient has learned to stand on his own feet, emotionally, intellectually, and economically, his need for therapy will collapse.
So this doesn't seem much different than what other what other psychodynamic therapy believes, which is if the therapist creates that holding environment. In Perls' case, if the therapist keeps reflecting back what the game is, so the client's sort of playing a game and the therapist doesn't play with the client, it's going to basically force or discipline or compel the client to now have to stand on her own feet. Okay, I don't know if I'm clear with this, but I hope this is clear. I'm going to have to stand on my own feet. This would be akin to when a client keeps reaching out to you, keeps calling you in between sessions because the latest crisis happened, and you somehow don't fall for that manipulation. You don't allow the client to become dependent on you, and instead you have the client in some way, hopefully in an adaptive way, hopefully in a validating way, but you have the client in some way face their own challenge. So he's talking about this, process of maturation, which is, I'm going to show the client what it is that they're doing wrong. I'm not going to tolerate that behavior, and I'm going to have them now sort of be forced into a more adaptive way of living, and the client will mature.
He will wake up from the nightmare of his existence. The basic technique is this: not to explain things to the patient, but to provide the patient with opportunities to understand and to discover himself. For this purpose, I manipulate and frustrate the patient in such a way that he's confronting himself. In this process, he identifies with his lost potential, for instance, through assimilating his projections by acting out the alien parts of himself. Principally, I consider any interpretation to be a therapeutic mistake, as this would imply that the therapist understands the patient better than the patient himself.
So this is really important. He says the patient has to figure themselves out completely. There's no room for interpretation from the therapist, which is, again, that's not in line with psychodynamic therapy, where the therapist is sort of helping, although we do want the patient to do as much as they can, but we might help or posit an interpretation and look for feedback. Here he wants the client or the patient to take on the entire responsibility. And let's see if Perls is consistent to this in his own work. There's one point where Gloria tries to catch him and say that he's not, but we'll talk about that later.
Takes away from the patient the chance of discovering himself by himself, and prevents him from finding out his own values and style. On the other hand, I disregard most of the content of what the patient says and concentrate most on the non-verbal level, as this is the only one which is less subject to self-deception than his verbal pseudo-self-expression. On the non-verbal level, the relevant gestalt will always emerge and can be dealt with in the here and now. We are going to have an interview for half an hour.
Right away, I'm scared.
You say you're scared, but you're smiling. I don't understand how one can be scared and smile at the same time.
Okay, so like all good therapists, he starts within the first few seconds. So he's making his first observation. You say you're scared and you're smiling. I don't understand how that's possible. So he's already picking up on her inconsistencies.
And I'm also suspicious of you. I think you understand very well. I think you know that when I get scared, I laugh or I kid to cover up.
But do you have stage fright?
I don't know. I'm mostly aware of you. I'm afraid that you're going to have such a direct attack that you're going to get me in the corner, and I'm afraid of it. I want you to be more on my side.
You said I get you in your corner, and you put your hand on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Is this your corner?
Well, it's...
So right here, he's already focusing on her here and now behaviors. What do you mean when you do this? Would be another way to say this. Is this your corner? What do you mean when you do this?
Like, yeah, it's like I'm afraid, you know.
Where would you like to go? Can you describe the corner you like to go to?
Yeah. It's back in the corner where I'm completely protected.
And there you would be safe for me.
Well, I know I wouldn't really.
Well,
But
imagine
it feels
you were in
safer,
this,
yes.
imagine you were in this corner, and you're perfectly safe now. What would you do in that corner?
I
now?
just sit,
Just sit.
yes.
Now, how long would you sit?
I don't know, but this is so funny as you're saying this. This reminds me of when I was a little girl. Every time I was afraid, I'd feel better sitting in a corner.
Okay,
And
you're
panicky.
not. Are you a little girl?
Well, no, but it's the same feeling.
Are you a little girl?
This feeling reminds me of it.
Are you a little girl?
No.
No,
Okay, lots of things happen right there. So he asks her what the corner does for her. What he's really on to is that she's playing a game. She's trying to force him to feel bad for her. She's trying to force him to have mercy on her. She's playing this little game. And she brings in, when I was a little girl, I used to. So he says, well, are you a little girl? Because that's when you were a little girl. But what about now? So she's trying to go back to the past. And he's saying, don't go back into the past. Let's look at now. Right now, you're behaving in a way that seems interesting, seems peculiar. Okay. And he, like Gregory's pointing out, he's inviting her into the experience of the here and now, what's going on for you right now. And he's also holding her accountable. Like he said, he's holding her accountable when she says, well, it feels like it. He says, are you a little girl? And she says, well, it feels like I'm a little girl. She wants to run back to the past, which he said is a distraction. Which he said is a distraction.
How old are you?
30.
Then you're not a little girl.
No.
Okay. So you're a 30-year-old girl who's afraid of a guy like me.
Well, I don't even know if I do know I'll be afraid of you. I get real defensive with you.
Now what can I do to you?
You can't do anything, but I can sure feel dumb, and I can feel stupid for not having the right answers.
Now what would it do for you to feel dumb and stupid?
I hate it when I'm stupid.
What would it do for you to be dumb and stupid? But it put it so like this.
Okay. So now she's continues to try to play the mercy game. I'm gonna make myself vulnerable in front of you, and I'm gonna make myself into a pity case in front of you. And while I'm a pity case, you're gonna start to feel bad. You're gonna say, no, I'm not gonna hurt you. You're gonna reassure me. You're gonna do something to make me feel good. Right? That's really what's going on here. And so he wants her to become aware of that. So he says, what can I do to you? And she says, well, you can hurt me. And he says, what will it do for you to feel dumb or stupid? Which, of course, she can't grasp that question just yet. What will it do for me to feel dumb or stupid? Well, what he's suggesting is that the fact that you're saying you could make me feel dumb or stupid is a game that she's playing to try to get his reassurance. So instead, he says, what for you to, if you get to feel dumb or stupid, what will that do on your behalf? How will that make things better? Which, of course, the answer would be, then you're gonna feel bad for me.
What would it do to me if you would play dumb and stupid?
Okay, so there he explains it better. He says, if you play dumb or stupid, what's that going to do to me? Of course, the answer is it's going to make me feel bad, and I'm gonna have to reassure you.
Makes you all the smarter and all the higher above me. Then I really have to look up to you because you're so smart. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you butter me up right and left.
No, I think you can do that all by yourself.
I think the other way around. If you play dumb and stupid, you force me to be more explicit.
That's been said to me before, but I don't buy it. I don't.
Okay, whoa. So here, I'm not sure if he went against his own principle or not by making this interpretation, or he just was calling her out on it, but he says, if you do this to me, you say this to me, if you play dumb and stupid, then it's going to make me have to do something for you. Or another way, that's another way of saying, by you claiming or playing that you're dumb or stupid, you're manipulating me to have to do something for you. And her response is, that's been said of me before. So you can see his brilliance in picking this up, picking up her game, her manipulation from the get-go. And what I would venture to say is that this intervention right here is actually strengthening the rapport, because he's understanding her on a really deep level. And if you watch his face in general, even though his tone doesn't sound like this, his face is actually pretty compassionate. It's pretty amused, it's pretty compassionate, it's not menacing at all. So I think that he's developing a very strong rapport by really deeply understanding her just 2 minutes into the session.
What are you doing with your feet now?
Wiggling them.
What's the joke now?
Oh, I'm afraid you're going to notice everything I do. Gee.
Don't you want me?
I want you to help me become more relaxed, yes. I don't want to be so defensive with you. I don't like to feel so defensive.
I want you to help me become more relaxed. Again, it's Gloria depending on Perls. I want you to, and he's not gonna allow her to do that. He wants her to mature. He wants to create maturation.
You're acting like you're treating me as if I'm stronger than I am, and I want you to protect me more and be nicer to me.
Are you aware of your smile? You don't believe a word what you
I
say.
do too, but I know you're going to pick on me for it.
Sure, you're bluff, you're phony.
Are you aware of your smile? You don't believe anything you're saying. Sure, you're a bluff, you're a phony. And he says that in all calmness, in all sincerity. You're a bluff, you're a phony.
Do you believe, you're meaning that seriously?
Yeah. If you say you're afraid and you laugh and you giggle and you squirm, that's phony. You put in a performance for me.
Oh, I resent that very much.
Can you express it?
Yes, sir. I most certainly am not being phony. I will admit this. It's hard for me to show my embarrassment, and I hate to be embarrassed. But boy, I resent you calling me a phony. Just because I smile when I'm embarrassed or I'm put in a corner doesn't mean I'm being a phony.
Wonderful, thank you. You didn't spell for the last minute.
Well, I'm mad at you.
That's right. You didn't have to cover up your anger with your smile. Now, in that moment, in that minute, you were not a phony.
Well, at that minute, I was mad, though. I wasn't embarrassed.
In other words, when you're mad, you're not a phony.
Okay, so first lesson in maturation. He's calling her out for being a phony, for being fake, for covering up for herself. And now she finally comes out of herself and acts in full defense and expresses her anger. And he's happy with that because he's made progress with her. And she is beginning to understand where he's going. She's struggling because he called her a name. And now she needs to play victim and get him to apologize or reassure her again. And while that's happening at the same time, he's drawing out of her his process of maturation. She's being transparent. She's showing her true self. And he's happy with that. He doesn't care that it's anger because he's here for the client.
I still resent that. I'm not a phony when I'm nervous.
Again.
I want to get mad at you. You know what I'd like to do? I want you on my level so I can pick on you just as much as you're picking on me.
Okay, pick on me.
I have to wait till you say something that I can pick on, but...
What does this mean? Can you develop this movement?
It's, I can't find words. I want to...
Develop this, as if you were dancing.
I want to start all over again with you.
Okay, let's start all over.
Okay, so right here you see she finally burst. She calmed down. She feels connected to him. She understands that he's here developing her. And she settles down. You can see that big smile, that sigh. And she's like, okay, I get it. We're in this together. You're not allowing me to play a game with you. Now I want to start over. I want to start over.
I know what corner I'd like to put you on. I'd like to ask you a question, and And because I have a feeling you don't like me right off the bat, and I want to know if you do.
Can you now play Fritz Perls not liking Gloria? What would he say?
He'd say that she's a phony, for one.
Say you are a phony.
You're a phony, and you're a flip little girl, and you're a show-off.
And what would Gloria answer to that?
I know what I'd answer. I'd say I think you are too.
Now say, tell this to me. Tell me what a phony I am.
Well, I'm...
Say, Fritz, you're a phony.
Well, phony's not quite the right word, but it's more like a show-off.
A show.
Like you know all the answers.
Yeah.
And I want you to be more human, and that doesn't seem very human to me.
To know all the answers is not very human.
Yeah, to right away find out how I'm kicking my feet and why am I doing like this. Why are you doing like that?
Oh dear, I've got eyes. I can see you're kicking your feet. I don't need a scientific computer to see that you're kicking your feet. What's big about that?
Okay, so right here, she's allowing herself to be herself, and he's enjoying it. He's reveling in that with her. Okay, tell me how you feel. Beautiful. This is how you feel about it. Okay, tell me how you feel I'm a fraud. Well, I can't really say you're a fraud because that doesn't really describe you. But what you're telling me, why are you kicking your feet? Why are you doing this? Now, right there, Fritz says this. He goes back to his old rule that he started off tonight's discussion with, which is, I don't make interpretations. I only observe. So he says to her, I just have eyes. All I said is, I notice you're doing this. What is it? I didn't ask you, why are you doing it? I just said, do you notice you're kicking your feet? And so this is, again, what we would consider projection. Fritz said to her, I notice you're kicking your feet. She says, you asked me or accused me, why are you kicking your feet? So she's projecting on Fritz that he's accusing her of doing something. Okay, and in classical analytic work, what we would want to know is what's going on for you. Why is it that you assume when I ask you a question that I'm criticizing you, right? Here, what Perls is saying is you are, again, making yourself into this little puppy and saying that I'm accusing you of things so that you can elicit from me some empathy, or you can elicit from me some reassurance. No, that's not what happened. All I did is I noticed your feet. I have eyes. No great science.
You don't need to be wise to see that you're kicking your feet.
I know, but it seems like you're trying to find some reason for it.
I don't. It's your imagination.
Okay, I know what I'd like from you. Can I tell you what I'd like from you?
Yeah.
I'd like you to be...
Okay, here's what we call mirroring. This is a controversial therapeutic move. Many people believe that it's worthless, but Fritz Perls liked it very much. And so Gloria sat up in her chair and leaned forward, and Fritz matches her. He goes right back into mirroring her. I'll replay that for a second so you can see what he does. Watch this. Very deliberate.
Reason for it.
I don't. It's your imagination.
Okay, I know what I'd like from you. Can I tell you what I'd like from you?
Yeah.
I'd like you to be aware that I'm kicking my feet and to be aware that I'm giggling when I'm really nervous and accept it instead of putting me on the defense of having to explain it. I don't want to have to explain why I'm doing these things.
Did I ask you to explain it?
You said, why am I? Or what am I doing?
No.
Well, what am I doing, you said.
That's right. Kicking your feet. I didn't ask you to explain it. It's your imagination. That's not this Fritz. It's the Fritz of your imagination.
So he's pointing out exactly what we call projection. Your imagination is seeing me as critical or seeing me as menacing, but that's not what's actually happening. So you're bringing a lot of your own stuff to the here and now. And that's what, when I gave you this introduction tonight, saying that the present here and now is the past, and that's why he didn't see it necessary to go to the past. This is here we see it playing out.
It's a big difference. Now do this again. Again. How do you feel now?
I don't know.
Playing stupid.
I'm not playing stupid. I
You
don't
see,
know
I
the
don't
right
know.
answer.
This is playing stupid. You did something with your hair there. Is by any chance something in my hair what you object to?
No.
No. Okay.
No, but your hair and your features.
Okay, so here's where the tables are really going to turn in the relationship. And she's going to start really, really looking for an attachment figure. Okay. When she did the sigh and he asked her about it and she said, I don't know. He said, you're faking again. You're lying. You know how you feel. You just did that 3 times. You can't say you don't know how it feels. Okay. When she did the here and he asked about, is there anything in my here? Not 100% sure what he meant by that, but I'm imagining there's some kind of projection or she's, very aware of his presence. I'm not sure what he meant when he asked her that question. But now is where we're really going to see the tables turn in her relationship with him.
Go along with the feeling I had about you earlier. I had a feeling I could be afraid of you. And you're the type of person that seems like you demand so much respect. And so you're...
Please play, Fritz. I demand so much respect. Play this, Fritz, you just saw.
Well, you know how smart I am. I know more about psychology than you do, Gloria. So anything I say, of course, is right.
Can you say the same as Gloria? Something similar as Gloria? Put the same act as Gloria. I demand respect because...
I don't know.
You don't
No, I don't. I identify it with my father, but not me. I don't feel I demand respect.
You don't demand respect.
No.
Sure not.
As a matter of fact, I'd like more. I'd like you to respect me more.
Now you see, so you demand respect.
All right, yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, if I could demand respect from you, I would.
But do it. Who's preventing you except yourself?
Because I feel if I get myself out on the corner, you're going to let me just drown. You're not going to help me one bit. And I know that I can't quite come up to standards with you.
What should I do when you're in the corner?
Encourage me to come out.
Ah, you don't have enough courage to come out by yourself. You need somebody to pull little mamsel in distress out of a corner.
Yes.
So anytime you want somebody to pay attention to you, crawl into a corner and wait till the rescuer comes.
Yes, that's exactly what I'd like.
And this is what I call phony.
Pardon me?
This is what I call phony.
Why is it phony? I'm admitting to you what I am. How is that a phony?
That is a phony because it's a trick, it's a gimmick to crawl into a corner and wait there till somebody comes to your rescue.
I'm admitting it. I know what I'm doing. I'm not being phony. I'm not pretending I'm so brave. I resent that. I feel like you're saying unless I come out openly and stand on my own, I'm not a phony. Baloney. I'm just as real sitting in that corner as I am out here all by myself.
But you're not sitting in that corner.
Well, not now. And besides that, it's like passing judgment when you call me phony. I just hate that anyway.
Now we're getting somewhere. I call anybody phony who puts on an act. And if you like somebody and you want to meet this person, to go to this person, tell him, I would like to meet you, I would call not phony. But if you coyishly go into that corner, waiting to be rescued, this I call phony. This I call phony.
And I still think you're judgmental. You know what I have a feeling? You've never felt this way in your life. You feel so secure that you don't have to feel. Anybody that does something like this, you're going to pass judgment on their being a phony. Well, I resent it.
Good. Now play Fritz passing judgment.
You are. You're sitting up there in your
Play
big old
Fritz.
chair.
I am Fritz. I pass judgment. Pass judgment on me now.
I don't feel close to you at all, Dr. Perls. I feel that's phony. I feel like you're playing one big game.
Right. Sure, we're playing games, but in spite of the games, I think I've touched you now and then. I think I hurt you when I called you a phony.
Well, of course you did.
And I think I hit the bullseye. That's why you feel hurt.
I don't know.
So he's really staying in the game here. He says, not only is what I'm saying true, but that's why it's hurting you so much. And I think that that's beautiful. I think it's great that I can hurt you and be genuine with you, contrary to what you're trying to enact over here, which is that if I hurt you, then I have to come out and apologize and feel a little bad and reassure you. That's just going to perpetuate your pathology. So instead, I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be honest. I'll be transparent in the way I see you. And then you can decide or choose whether you want to continue to behave this way or whether you want to try to find a more adaptive way of relating. And I'm very okay with that. I'll sit back in my chair and be very okay with that. And she's going to work that through now.
No, all I know is when I feel the way I feel with you right now, it's like you don't have feeling.
Fine. Now, exaggerate this. What you just did.
I'm like,
That's it. Now, talk to me like this.
I can't. I want to laugh. I'd like you to be younger than me so I could really scold you.
How old must I be?
My age, 30.
Good, I'm 30 now. Imagine I'm 30. And now you scold me.
Okay, don't be so cocksure yourself. Don't think you're so doggone smart. Don't act so proud because you've never been in the corner. I think you can be just as big a phony, parading around like you're so damn smart and you know all the answers as much as me sitting in my corner. Oh, and I like the feeling of you being younger. Yeah. I'd like to embarrass you.
Yeah. Embarrass me.
Well,
Tell me what
you wouldn't get embarrassed. You seem unaffected.
Tell me, embarrass me. Tell me how old, how ugly I am.
You don't look old and ugly, you look distinguished. And that's all the more on your side. If you look so distinguished, then see, that's more on your side too.
Now, I personally think right there when she said you don't look old and ugly, you look distinguished, that was some projection there. She's experiencing him differently than she probably did 10 minutes ago. And she's seeing him as distinguished and important looking. So that changes the way I feel that changes, that's a reflection of the change that occurred in the session, but that maybe I'm taking that too far.
Gloria, can we say one thing? We had quite a good fight.
No, I know. No.
I
don't think you're fighting with me.
But I felt you came out quite a bit.
Well, I'm mad at you.
Wonderful.
But you seem so detached. You don't even seem to care that I'm mad at you. I feel like you're not recognizing me at all, Dr. Perls, not a bit.
This is quite true. Our contact is much too superficial to be involved in caring. I care for you as far as, let's see, you're right now my client. I care for you as far as I like to, like an artist, bring something out which is hidden in you. This is as far as I care.
Well, I'd like to feel that it's frustrating. If I were to leave you right now and not see you again, it would frustrate me to feel like there hadn't been more contact. I feel completely out of contact with you. Like I'm talking to the baby that doesn't understand me or something like that. I don't feel like we're a bit in contact, and that frustrates me. That bothers me more than being angry with you. I'd rather we were angry and fought than to have no contact. Yeah, this reminds me of when my husband and I used to fight. He sits there and he listens to me, but he's not even aware of how much I hate him and how mad I am at him. I'd rather affect you. You to really hate me or something. And I feel like you're purposely staying out of contact with me.
How should I be? Give me your fantasy. How could I share my concern with you?
Okay, so right now, she's at a point where she's really being transparent. She's sharing herself. If you can feel it, if you can feel Gloria, She's actually sharing of herself with him. She's not playing any of that game anymore. He brought her to a point where she's sharing her full self with him. And incidentally, she's saying, I want more contact with you. I hate you so much that you're so detached that I want more contact with you. So that again demonstrates the brilliance of what he did. He got her to want more contact with him. So she's feeling and sensing that he cares for her. She's feeling and sensing that he is doing this in her best interest, in spite of the fact that he's so cold, in spite of the fact that he's so detached, as she's calling it. And now he says, tell me what you would want more from me. Now, I'm not sure at this juncture why he's doing that. If he wants to just bring out the art more, or if he wants to bring out to her the idea of assertiveness. Like if you were to meet a man, right? She's divorced, by the way. If you were to meet another man, how would you behave differently rather than going into the corner, making him feel badly for you, making him come and get you? What would you want from him? And would you be able to share that with him? So he's doing one of those two things. I'm not sure yet.
I can't say in words. I know the feeling I'd see on you, but I can't say. It's just a feeling like, I don't know. It's like I want you to respect me more as a human being, that I've got feelings.
Now we come back to the beginning. So you want respect.
Yes, I do. I do.
See.
This is a different kind of respect than I meant the first
Never
time,
mind,
but
you need respect.
yes.
I respect you so much as a human being that I refuse to accept the phony part of yourself.
Right there. So right there, he really hits on a nerve. I respect you so much as a human being that I refuse to accept the phony part of you. I also want you. I want the real you. I don't want this game that you play. Then I don't feel contact with you. I feel like there's a game going on here. Now, just think about some of our manipulative clients. Here you have Fritz in session for maybe 15 minutes or 16 minutes, and he's gotten this far with Gloria. Can we do that, or we're still like taking the family history, right? Or can we somehow jump right in to the person and experience the person and artistically bring them out?
And address myself to the genuine part. Right now, the last few minutes, you were wonderfully genuine. You were not playing anymore. I could see you were really hurting.
Well, I don't feel I've got a right when I don't like somebody or I disagree with somebody's doing. If I should respect them, if they're above me, they're superior to me, I don't feel I've got a right to really, really tell you how mad I am at you.
That's garbage. You're not jacketing. You're getting back into your safe corner.
Well, that's the way it feels. That's what the safe corner feels like to me.
That's right. Now go back to your safe corner. Because we have to part very soon. You stayed in your safe corner. You came out for a moment. You nearly met me. You could get a little bit angry with me. Now go back to your safety.
I feel like you're telling me the only way you respect me as a human being if I'm aggressive and forceful and strong. I feel like you couldn't even accept I'd be scared to death to cry in front of you. I feel like you'd laugh at me and call me a phony. I feel like you don't accept my weak side only when I'm yelling back at you or hollering at you.
You mustn't cry in my presence.
Well, I wouldn't even give you the satisfaction.
Say this again.
No.
Say this again.
Does anybody know why he's telling her say this again? I'm going to go back a few seconds. Oh, we got someone in the chat. Anybody know why he's telling her say this again? Listen real quick.
She's claiming herself.
She's what?
She's claiming herself.
Okay, go back. We're going to go back for a minute. Listen again. Listen closely.
You? I feel like you'd laugh at me and call me a phony. I feel like you don't accept my weak side only when I'm yelling back at you or hollering at you.
You mustn't cry in my presence.
Well, I wouldn't even give you the satisfaction.
Say this again.
No.
Say this again.
I try not to.
Hey, thank you, Rivka, in the chat box. Congratulations. Yes, because if you listen to her, she chokes up, she cracks. And as she's telling him, I can't cry, he says, as she's saying, I can't cry in your presence, she cracks and she begins to cry. And he says, okay, say this again. Now you're going to cry. And she says, no, I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction.
Try not to cry in front of you or show my weak spot for fear you'd jump on me again.
Are you aware that your eyes are moist?
I'm aware that I feel more choky. Yes, I feel it.
Could you choke me?
Pretend, but not for real.
Why not for real?
Well, because I don't hate you that much.
No, you want to choke my tears back. You want me to choke you so you wouldn't cry?
If I'd like to choke you, it would be to make you cry.
So this is a very interesting interaction. I'm not sure why he said, do you want to choke me? That I don't have any grip on why he says that. But then he says, do you want me to choke you? Right? When she says I'm noticing myself feeling more choky. The idea of choky is that she's not allowing herself to cry. So he says, do you want me to choke you so that it will prevent you from crying?
Right. Well,
I'd like to see you weak. I'd like to see you hurt and vulnerable.
What would this do for you?
Make me feel like I have more of a right to be hurt, and you wouldn't jump on me so quick.
Would you jump on me if I would cry?
No. Mm-mm.
But I would jump on you if you would cry. You're sure of this?
No, I'm not sure of it.
What would you like me to do if you were to cry?
I was
You're smiling something off.
well, because I got two feelings. I was going to say I'd want you to love me and hug me, but then I thought, no, I don't want to.
What's your objection?
I'd be scared to be too close to you.
Now we're getting somewhere. First you want to be close to me. Now you're afraid to be too close to me.
Okay, so here we have this this paradox that you want to be close to me and you're scared to be close to me. Now, if we think about it, that's probably what's going on in most of her relationships. And this is what he wants. The way that Gloria relates to people is she wants closeness, but she's really afraid of them. So she makes the other people pursue her. She makes them feel badly for her. And then she could always get out of the relationship because she never pursued the relationship. Okay, I'm sorry, Elliot, did you want to say something?
No, we were talking about the choking before. I think that she said that she acknowledged that she felt choked, and I think what Perls was trying to do was for her to get it to go out of her, and that he would be willing to accept her choking him. I think that's what was going on.
That he asked her if she would want to choke him because
because this way, instead of her choking herself, it would project it outward toward him, and then that would kind of clear her need to choke.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm saying, but
That's right. Now we got the two poles of your existence.
they're two different feelings. Close, I mean emotionally, but not physically.
But we've got the two poles of your existence now. Either far away in a corner, or be so close that you get melt into one with the other person. And apparently you travel between the two extremes.
I do. You know what I'm thinking? When I am really hurt and really upset about something, and I want someone to love me, like my girlfriend will do it a lot, and she'll come up to hug me, I don't want it.
Exactly. See? That's what I'm talking about. You cannot sustain contact. Okay, this is garbage. What are you afraid if you were too close to your girlfriend, if you let her hug you?
The only thing I'm aware of is, like when I perspire, it embarrasses me that she'd feel how wet I am, and that she'd hold my body up close, and I don't know. Just...
Are you aware of your facial expression, the kind of disgust?
Yes.
Coming?
Yes, I am.
Do this more, please.
It's icky.
Again.
It's just icky. I can just feel what it is. I don't like it.
Can you say this to me, Fritz? You're icky.
No,
No? What's your difficulty?
because I feel like if you really believe me, that would hurt your feelings.
Oh, you must not hurt my feelings.
Well,
I thought I was so indifferent, as you said before, that nothing could touch me.
no.
Now you suddenly discovered a way to touch me, isn't it?
Well, you know what I believe? I believe you're the type of person sort of like me, that you act like it wouldn't hurt your feelings, but it really would. You act strong, but you're soft and vulnerable inside there too. I think your feelings could be hurt, sure. But I don't think you'd show it very easy.
What would I do? How would I conceal my feelings?
By turning it back on me. By saying, now, what did you get from that, Gloria? You turn the whole thing back on me instead of showing how hurt you were.
Now, can you say this to Fritz? What did you get out of this, Fritz? Say this to me.
What'd you get out of what?
What you just said, just your sentence.
Sure, I know what you'd get out of it. If I said, what did you get out of this, Fritz? You'd say, nothing. It didn't bother me. It was you that did it. You still wouldn't let me know you were hurt. But I know what it would be if you told your true feelings, that you didn't want to show your hurt, so you covered it up. Same way with me in the corner.
Now, if I were hurt, if I would cry, what would you do with me?
Okay, so she's getting it. She's really getting it. She's not only is she getting it about herself, but she's projecting it onto Fritz, saying you would do the same thing. If I were to say something mean to you, you would be hurt. And if you would be hurt, you would just cover it up, just like I do, right? Just like I do. So in other words, it's projection. I'm assuming that you are the same as me. And if you're hurt, you're going to cover it up and not show and just turn it back on me. But what if I was hurt, he says? What would you do then?
You wouldn't be so superior to me. You'd be more vulnerable, and I could pacify you and make you feel better.
You could hug me.
Yes.
And I could be the baby.
Yes. Yes. I'd like that. You'd feel more on my level. I wouldn't have to feel so dumb with you.
And the other way around, you would have to be my baby. If you would cry, you would like to play the baby and be comforted and hugged and poor thing.
Well, I'd
Poor
like
me.
that too.
Okay, so let's again, we have to really appreciate the idea of projection in order to understand and really appreciate what's happening here. Whatever she says she would do to him to comfort him is her way of saying, this is what I would imagine somebody doing to me to comfort me. So he immediately jumps on that. She says, well, I would comfort you, but she does this with her hands, which is hug essentially. So he says, okay, so then you would hug me and then I would pacify you. So he says, okay, so, and the other way around, I would hug you and comfort you and pacify you. That's really what you want. And she says, yes.
Well, I tell you something, Gloria. I think we came to a nice closure. I think we came to a little bit of understanding. I think we finished this situation now, right?
All right.
Now I just want to go back a second.
You would cry, you would like to play the baby and be comforted.
Look at her
and
closely.
hugged and poor thing.
Well, I'd
Poor
like
me.
that too.
Well, I tell you something, Gloria. I think we came to a nice closure. I think we came to a little bit of understanding. I think we finished this situation now, right?
All right.
So it's hard to see this, but if Fritz claims that right there at the end, Gloria began to tear up and she started to get teary-eyed. So that's when he decided to close the session. I'm not sure if you can really, I see that right there, but he claims that that's what happened and that's why he closed up the session. I don't know if anybody noticed that. Okay. I think we should take some questions or comments. Does anybody want to share anything? I think this was a masterful piece of art that he displays. He really shows his connection with what's really deeply occurring to the client, to the point where by the end of the session she says, I really want to be close with you. No, I want to do this over and I want to be close with you. Now, why would she want to be close with him if she's so hurt by him? So he's positing that she plays this game. And he's breaking through the game that she does of manipulating people to be drawn into her corner. And instead he stays out of her corner. And this is the first time where somebody actually respects her enough to say, come, let's have an equal relationship. You tell me how you feel. Tell me what you want from me. Make fun of me if you need to, but don't go into your corner because I'm not going to tolerate that. And that forces her into that stage of what he called in his introduction, the stage of maturation, where he's helping her to mature. Any questions or comments? I'd love to hear them, and then we'll go to his closing remarks. All right, Shoshana.
I actually have a few questions. First is, do we know why she's in therapy?
I don't know if she enumerates it in this particular piece, but I don't think that, I'm not even sure if Perls would care. She does talk about it in her video session with Carl Rogers. She has problems with relationships. In case you're surprised, she's divorced and she wants to have more relationships, and she has problems with relationships. But she doesn't mention that here. I don't know if Perls would even care, because what he's looking to do is see what goes on in the here and now, and then he's going to be able to identify, what's maladaptive about her way of behaving.
Is it also possible that she wants what's elusive?
Which is,
Like, she wants, like, he's kind of like keeping her at bay, and to give her like almost like to make her want more, and instead of like just giving it to her, the connection.
that he is or she is.
He's holding back. Like, I don't know if it doesn't make any sense, but I feel like in a way, like there's like this, like she, in the end, I think she kind of shifts, wanting what she can't have.
Well, again, the way I understand what he's doing is he's actually staying in present in one place, instead of getting moved by her. So she's like sort of drags people around, and he's staying. So I don't know if he's trying to not have contact with her, or if he's trying to bring her to like a level playing field where they can have contact like this. I'm not sure if that answers your question. Okay, was there another question you want to ask? Shoshana? Did you have something else, or?
No, for now it's good. Thanks.
All right, Yankee, Yaakov.
Why does he continue telling her to say over and do over what she's doing?
Well, I think the reason is because he wants her to develop an awareness of what meaning that might have, what she's trying to do, and B, that she should become aware that that's what it means, so that in the future, when she's using certain hand motions or certain body motions, she should recognize what I'm doing now is fill in the blank.
Thank you.
Gregory.
Thank you, Moshe. I wanted to respond to the question, or what I understood to be the question you said of why would she want to come back? Why would she want to continue to work with him, if I understood that correctly? So my sense, at the risk of stating what might be self-evident, my sense is that no matter what the compensatory strategies we develop in our early life for just survival, for safety, that there is part of our DNA, part of how we're wired, is to seek to be known, and to like honestly for who we are authentically. And he has from the beginning been giving her, even if it might sometimes seem gruff and impersonal, but from the very beginning, he's giving her an invitation to be real, to be authentic, and to be congruent. And And rather than denying or avoiding contact, from my perspective, when she gets angry, when she comes out of the corner and she's angry, he actually reflects on it at a certain point and says, I think we made some progress here. We had real contact.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so he actually seems to be, from my perspective, encouraging
Mhm.
whatever it is welcome here as long as it's real.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
The other thing that I would say is that Fritz is he's just present with her, meaning that, you know, when she grimaces, he just keys into that. But he himself would never have foreseen that. It was just that she kind of did it in the moment, and then he said, "Okay, can you do that again?" So he's just staying very much in the moment. He's staying very much in the here and now, to the point that actually she leads him. He doesn't lead her. She leads him.
Mhm. Why do you think he asked her to do the grimace again? And then he said, "Do you feel this way towards me?" And that part I didn't fully understand.
I think the grimace was it was kind of very quick and maybe even unconscious on her part. And I think by asking her to do it again, it was just kind of to reinforce her awareness. I think you mentioned that, to reinforce her awareness
Just to
around the
reinforce
grimace.
awareness, but not because there was any particular meaning going on right there in the session.
No, I don't think so.
I couldn't identify any particular meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Fritz's closure, his conclusion, and then we can finish with the rest of if there's any other questions.
The demonstration was, in my opinion, quite successful and consistent with my theoretical outlook. The avoidance of the genuine encounter manifested itself in three ways. The patient was first taking control by putting on a smiling, sophisticated, phony mask of oscillating between a pretense of being frightened and yet at the same time having me figured out, thus being or believing to be fully in control of the situation. Secondly, she was withdrawing by fantasizing of hiding in a corner. Thirdly, she was blocking the real encounter of melting through crying, which then would have been the real emotional meaning of this meeting. The patient was capable of identifying herself with several fantasies she had projected onto me. This was especially evident with regard to her initial denial for a need to be respected. The need for environmental support started to come out besides her need to get respected. It was verbalized in her wish to be cared for, rescued from the corner, and so on. I broke off the session when the first tears began to appear. She began to play the role of the lonely child and apparently wanted to be hugged and comforted. But here too the assimilation of her projection began to work, and she began to experience holding me like a baby. Apart from assisting her and assimilating her in some projections, the main therapeutic factor was to show her the inconsistency of her verbal and non-verbal behavior. For instance, saying that she was frightened and smiling at the same time. A frightened person does not smile. Where I failed was in the direction of her embarrassment. This embarrassment was protected by her brazenness and anger. To get to her existential embarrassment, we would have to work through and eliminate the phoniness, that is, the ease with which we can superficially assume any role that is required for a specific situation. This pseudo-adaptation is her way of coping with life. This is about what I got out of this session.
Okay, so I think we had a pretty accurate understanding of how he was running his session. And I hope that what I said in the introduction, which is that he cares about the present because the past is playing itself out in the present. And so therefore he doesn't feel the need to go back and grieve the past or things like that. Just be present with the patient, be a caring, compassionate, accepting person. Like he said, I respect you too much to actually go for your phoniness, to go for your fraud. I want you to be able to take the risk of coming out of yourself, of being real, so I can experience the real you and accept you, is why he didn't feel that it was necessary to go into the past. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Well then, I think we will call it a night.
I just want to let people know that on Thursday, I plan to do a paradox psychology free training. So if anybody's interested, they're certainly welcome. If they need the invite, my email is paradoxdoc@gmail, paradoxdoc@gmail.com.
Yes, thanks for that. Lots to
thank you.
learn in the paradox realm, and a number of paradox sessions on earlier Mondays with Moshe from last year, 2 years ago. I think we had 2 or 3 of them. So you're welcome to take a look at that as well. Okay, well, let's call it a night. Good night, everybody. For those